Welcome to the Waves of Change podcast, where we aim to inspire the listener to awaken to their purpose and take the action required to live life on their own terms. My name is Darragh, confidence and mindset coach, speaker, entrepreneur and humanitarian. I will be sitting down with creators from all walks of life who grew through the waves of change in their lives to be making the impact in the world they are today. Without further ado, welcome onto the Waves of Change podcast. And how are you doing today, brother?
I'm good, really well. So yeah, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for coming on. And I just want to, we'll start all the way back from the start, Sam. What was life like for you growing up and the environment that you grew up in?
Yeah, I suppose look a little bit different. I grew up in a household with parents as yogis. So mum's well, as far as I always remembered her, she's always been a yoga teacher and a yoga master. And then dad sort of devotes his life to meditation. So I grew up in a household which was very much that way. So I suppose the whole new age spirituality is not very new age to me. It's something that I've always grown up with, something that's always been a part of my life. So yeah, that was interesting growing up. I didn't understand it always, I didn't understand, I sort of, I'm vegetarian. I always have been a vegetarian. That's yogic philosophy. So I didn't understand, I never had the desire to eat meat, but I never had answers for my friends, growing up in, I grew up in offshore Sydney. So it was very sort of, very much sort of middle class or upper middle class Sydney. And, didn't understand what, when people would ask about why I didn't eat meat or didn't really have answers for them. And there were certain things when my mum in primary school, she got involved in the canteen and turned everything into health food in the canteen and stuff.
Yes.
So
what was that like with your mates?
It didn't go down well, she took chips out of the canteen. So there was that. Okay. And I suppose, but there was some, some very strong lessons and some very strong principles that they taught me. They've never and still never lied to me. So I've never been told any lies or even fibs, Santa Claus wasn't a thing because they didn't want fibs to me. It's like that. It's been very interesting. They've always treated me as an equal and as an adult. And that had its pros and cons. I grew up very quickly, but then I also didn't respect people who, or I didn't respect adults that didn't treat me like an adult. So I found that very challenging at school when teachers would, treat me subpar or whatever it may be. So it caused me a bit of shit.
The whole, the hierarchical system, isn't it? The control, the conform and control system. But also, part of the introduction that I wanted to say was Sam has got some of the deepest wisdom, what would you say, humorous wisdom that in all of the space and in everybody's posts. I've been in this sort of this world for the last 5 years, I think now, 4 or 5 years, and your posts are they've got a depth of wisdom with great humor. I really, really enjoy reading them. So thanks for sharing your fuck yous with the world.
That's okay.
Yeah.
So they're for certain years. They're for certain years, and some people understand, some people don't. So, but I think people that know me, it's always with tongue in cheek, and I don't really give a fuck. It's just I'm just throwing it out there. It's never that serious.
That's why I love them so much. There's always a little hidden hook in there with a little trigger point. It's like bam, 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 bam. If the shoe fits, kind of posts. And yes. I love them. I'd be laughing. So, but Sam, let's go back again. You said you two things. We'll just go back to the North Shore of Sydney first of all, which I love. And for anyone listening who's not in Australia, if you think of, for me, when you think of for me, it's like it's real Australia. It's like what you see on the telly. In regards to home and away. Yeah, I love the surf.
My mum lives in Avalon. Actually, she lives in Avalon, which is not far from the home and away set. So,
right. Because
I was on home and away as a kid as well.
Where,
just I didn't have a name or anything. I was just an extra. I
just the face.
Playing basketball in the background sort of thing. Or
you're wearing a model now. So yeah,
no.
basketball. Let me note that down because I noticed you've got a big, huge love for that. But yeah, for me, the North Shore of Sydney, I go over there. I surf. Jesus, my mind's gone blank. DY further up. Jeez, it will come back to me. But whenever I'm over there, Colleroy, DY, one big Pittwater. There's one that begins with W, and there's another beach that begins with B. They will come Warriewood, yes. Oh my God, one of my mates nearly drowned at Warriewood. It's like fucking 12 foot out there. But and then there's another one. I think it's not Burwood. There's another beach a little bit further up from Warriewood. I think it's another 5-10 minutes. Behind the cliffs. So all the houses are up on the cliffs, and you have to go down into the beach.
It's not Colleroy Plateau, is it?
No, it begins with B. But anyways, So that side of Sydney, I feel, you know, it's got the combi vans, the Volkswagen combi vans, and the old school Australian houses, and like exactly what you see on TV, you know, the combi vans / cafes, you know, the coffee shops. So yeah, I really, really enjoy it. It's always been a thing for me going into areas like that, because I'm from a working class area. So you do a bit of visualizing and just enjoy the surroundings. So for you, surf life growing up around there, what was that like for you?
Oh, look, it was nice. Yeah. So I sort of grew up more when I say North Shore, it's like northern beaches, yes, and we'd always go down the northern beaches. But I grew up sort of more around French's Forest, Chatswood area. So a little bit away from, closer to the city. Well, closer to the city than we were at the beach. So it was more like we'd go into the city or Chatswood more than that. But then, you know, I suppose we'd spend winter in the city and then summer down at the beaches down at Manly or Freshwater or something. So that's kind of how it went. But look, yeah, it was nice. It was you know, it was an upper middle class area. It's very you know, you said like proper Australia. It's fucking yuppieville and it's snobby. And it's upper middle class. It's upper middle class like most places.
Exactly.
But it was yeah, it was funny. And look, my parents being, you know, my mum being a yoga teacher, my dad sort of he did some business, and then he got into computer programming. He said it's the worst mistake he ever did. But they never had a whole lot of money, but they sacrificed a lot to be able to live in those areas for me. Which was nice. But I suppose, you know, I was the least wealthy kid in a rich neighborhood. You know what I mean? Which was fine. And you know, if we went to live in the western suburbs or something like that, we'd probably be quite wealthy. But it's a nice area to grow up in. It's safe. It's, you know, we could go to the beach and get one bus to the beach, or, you know, it's a nice place to be.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you just about the parent dynamic and you know, what are your thoughts on that today? So your family, they wanted you to grow up in the best neighborhood for whatever reasons, and yeah, I'm keen to hear your thoughts on that today.
Yeah, look, I appreciated it because I mean, it is nice growing up in these areas. It's safe, and it's, you know, I've got lots of friends from around there. I don't think it was only that as well. So, I mean, my mum was a yoga teacher, and she was a yoga teacher. You know, I just turned 39. She's a yoga teacher as long as I can remember. So this was before fucking yoga was, you know, on every street corner. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So she kind of needed to be in those areas to have that business, you know what I mean? And you know, and the money that she was charging, it was a very boutique sort of yoga service and very traditional yoga. So she needed to be in areas where people had the money, and you know, there's I suppose housewives with money and not a lot to do. So she needed to be there for the business. But yeah, I've got no regrets about that, or the way my parents brought me up. The one thing they didn't install in me was a whole lot of discipline. See, I went to what they call an alternate school for the first 4 years of my life, 3 or 4 years. So an alternate school is run by the parents. Okay, so it was run by the parents, and they gave a lot of autonomy to what we did. So generally there was basically a bunch of hippie kids, or rock stars kids. There was actually, I went to school with a lot of, parents who had some sort of musical background or something like that. Rock stars of the 80s, like Angry Anderson's kid. I went to school with the NXX Boys kids. Good friends, really, really good friends with one of the NXX Boys kids. But yeah, so we sort of grew up there, and it got to the point, I think, when I was around about 10, I wanted to go to a normal school, because all my friends in the neighborhood, or kids I'd go ride a bike with in the afternoon, stuff like that, they were going to a normal school. So I went to a normal school, and because I had this schooling where they really let me do what I wanted, I had freedom at school, and my parents let me do it as well. I went to a normal school and they tested me. So I got into class and I was all normal and stuff like that, but they tested me for English, and I can't forget this. And they wanted me to spell flag out loud, and I spelled it FAG, so I spelled flag fag. So that goes down well with with a bunch of boys in year 4. So anyway, so I caught that, but then they tested me, and basically I couldn't read, I couldn't spell, and I couldn't read. And I was in year 4. I was at the stage where I probably should have been able to. So they tested me for that, and then what they did is they started to put me in special education. Then the maths test came around. It's very interesting. Then the maths test came around, and I got 100% on the maths test. And they said, how can he not spell, but he got 100%? They kept testing me for maths, and I was doing around about year 9 or year 10 maths. Okay. And that's because at my previous school, I liked maths. Yeah. And I did it. Okay. So then I went from being in the special ed class to them testing me on the spectrum and thinking I was an autistic savant. So I wasn't. I'm not autistic. So they started to test me for this, right? So they thought I was some sort of mathematical savant. So anyway, so this all came about, and then I didn't really understand the labels and the boxes they were putting me in. So then I started to rebel. And then when you rebel as a kid, they test you for the next thing, which is ADHD. Yeah. Okay. So then I got put in 3 boxes very, very quickly. Which was very interesting in school, and I think that pissed me off, because I went from coming from a home where I was treated with respect and as an adult, and then going into a schooling system where they just went, all right, this is you, and they didn't even know what fucking box to put me in. They put me in special education. Then I'm a genius, and now I've got behavioural problems. Well, no shit, I got behavioural problems because you've just thrown me around everywhere, and I'm a 10-year-old kid.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's,
yeah, and what I'm getting from that is the conformity of this school system, because this a societal system. It's not just a school system of, you're born, you go into this and you fit into that narrative, and then you go into that, you fit into that narrative, and then you do the whole school. You go to work, you pay your taxes, you get married, you settle down, you get to the happily ever after, which is retirement, and then you live your life. And I just want to bring it all the way back to the question of how was that on your mental mindset, your emotional intelligence of being the teachers trying to squeeze you into the boxes that were designed fucking 50, maybe 100 years ago.
Well, I rebelled, and definitely at home, it was like my favorite movie as a kid was The Boy That Could Fly. My parents really sort of, I don't know if you remember that, you're probably around about my age, but that was sort
slightly
of
younger.
Yeah, slightly younger. It was about a boy that could fly. He thought he could fly, so he could, and it was about the power of the mind. And my dad used to read me as a kid like things like Jonathan Living Seagull. I don't know if you ever read Jonathan Living Seagull. So it's a must read. Like, it's a very motivational story about a seagull who thought he could, he could reach the heavens. He could fly to the heavens. Living Seagull. Short book, very easy book. And anyway, it's a great book. Old one, Richard Barch, I think. Anyway, so I grew up with these ideas that I could do whatever I want, and got treated like an adult and so forth, and then got put into this system, and I just rebelled. Both my parents are entrepreneurs as well. My mum was a yoga teacher. My dad actually run direct sales companies, and then from there he switched from direct sales company, went and got into computers when computers was the big rage, and fucking hated every minute of it. But he was always self-employed, and he was he wrote programs for companies. So there was two self-employed people with strong theosophical beliefs. So they had strong beliefs about, the way the spiritual life, not
Being
philosophical,
free.
theosophical. So they had strong beliefs around this, and then they put me in a schooling system, and I rebelled. And I think the one thing that kept me sane in all this was, probably two things. It was probably the fact I went to a co-ed school and there was women, and I had basketball as well. So I concentrated on two things at school, and that was women and basketball. So, or not women at the time, they were girls, but
yeah. And you were a little boy, and what are your thoughts on that? Like that situation now today. So what it was like for you, first of all, and then the old system. Like, what are your thoughts on the old system? And because a lot of people, in regards to what you were saying, the spectrum, the things that you went through, what happens is, I had a guy that had ADHD, a client of mine had ADHD, and what they done, instead of, they drugged them up for many, many years. And so with a misdiagnosis like that, first of all, they're telling you that you don't fit in, or you're wrong, or the way you're living or the way you're being is not right for what the system wants. Can you speak more into the damage that creates for one, the human, and the future moving forward, and what your thoughts are on, how we can not fix the situation, but how we can better be more effective in those type of situations?
Yeah. Look, it's something I'm passionate about. I've always been an entrepreneur. I've never had a job, or not in my adult life anyway. I had some jobs as a teenager, but never in my adult life. So I'm very, very passionate about this. But I think this is all by design. I think this is definitely part of the plan. It's definitely part of the design. They stick us in school in rows, and we're tested on certain standards that come out of memory. We're basically tested on our memory. And where, when you're tested on your memory and everything's built around, what you learn in the book, it kills the imagination. And it definitely, and squashes kids' imagination. And then from there, we're conditioned to go out there and go to high school, get good grades, go to university, go pay in between 50 and 100, sometimes $200,000 for a university degree. And all that conditions us is, as an 18-year-old, we sign a contract, sometimes 17 years old, which should be fucking illegal, by the way. We sign a contract with the university. It actually should be illegal, okay? Because you can't sign any other contract as a 17-year-old, but you sign a contract with the university saying that you're going to pay them, $50,000 to $200,000 for this university degree, which a lot of times is irrelevant, okay? So what that does is conditions us. It conditions us for a life of fucking debt, which is what they want. Okay, so that's normal. Because then we get out of university, we go get our fucking middle line management job or whatever it is. We get paid $50,000-$60,000 a year, and the first thing that we do when we get that job is we go buy a fucking car, because because the other bloke in the office has got an Audi or whatever, so we need to go get an Audi, and then we go buy the car and we do that, and then 5 years later we're buying the house, and we're doing this all on finance, and we're conditioned to this life of debt, which just keeps us on the hamster wheel. So I think it's a big problem. I mean, I could harp on it for fucking ages. I mean, the university is like uni, one verse, one voice, one opinion. It says it in the fucking name. It's not a free thinking place. Like, a lot of people go to university, and it's like, these movements were around a lot, and I'm sure they still are. I never went to university, but it's like you see on TV, like these, you go to university and you're going to learn and be artsy and free thinking, and join some fucking, I don't know, pot smoking protesting group or whatever. Do you know what I mean? It's got this idea, but the bottom line of it,
the underground cult.
Bottom line of it is, university is uni, one verse, one voice, one song. That's what it is. So it's one opinion. And this is a fact as well. So it's funny, I found that they write university. This is, and you have a look at like something like business that's moving very, very fast, or any degree out there, medicine, or any of these degrees that you'd go out there and do, right? Even architecture or something like that. It takes them to write a university curriculum anywhere in between 7 and 10 years. Okay. Then they'll generally run that for around about 10 to 15 years. So you could be getting in there. If you're lucky, you get in there and you're doing information. You're paying for this information that's 10 years old. If you're not lucky, it could be 25 years old.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
It's fucking mind blowing.
Wow, wow.
So,
And a question that's come as you were speaking there about shit, I've lost my train of thought. No, I fucking the last sentence there, you knocked me off. But the university, one verse, that's right. I've never heard it like that. So when you say one verse or one voice, you're referring to, you know, a conformist mindset, which brings me to, so everybody thinking the same. So no critical thinkers separate from the herd or the pack. But the question or the highlight that come up for me is, you know, 1 minute, as you say, it should be illegal to sign these contracts at the age of 17, because 1 minute you are, you need to put your hand up and ask for permission to go to the toilet. The next minute you ask to sign a contract that's going to have you in debt for 10, maybe 15 years of your life, at 200 grand. Like, they wouldn't allow you a $200,000 loan for a business startup at the age of 17, but they'll give you one for, you know, to make. So basically what I'm highlighting here is, 1 minute you're asking to go to the bathroom, you're asking permission to go to the bathroom, and the other you're expected to sign away your life for many years. I expected to know what to be doing with your life for the next X amount of years. How many people do you know that have went to college and dropped out?
oh yes, yeah. And they say you change your career 5 times.
Yeah.
So you say in your lifetime you will change your career. The average person changes their career or their job 5 times. So it's like the chances of you paying all this money. Let's say it's 50 grand. Even if it's 50 grand, you study for 4 years, do 50 grand course, you put the money into that. Chances of you doing that when you're 50 years old is slim to fucking none.
Mm-hmm. And this is exactly how I found Alexi, believe it or not. Have you heard of the documentary The Abundance Factor?
I have actually, yeah. No, I think I've seen it on Gaia or something. Yeah.
Yeah. So the Abundance Factor was a guy who, the same, his when he was high school, when he was leaving high school, and he told his school teacher that he was going to change the world, travel the world, and make a video that would impact the world. So change millions of people's lives around the world. And the teacher basically said, you know, don't be ridiculous. He was from a small town, and the big factory there was a sort of a cheese factory. So he left school, got a job, and in the middle of the night, it's a very, very rare condition. He attempted suicide while he was sleeping. And from that awakening, he went and interviewed entrepreneurs, and he wanted to see, was there a fast forward to, you know, the happily ever after, instead of waiting to, you know, the retirement. So part of that was going and asking, what is the abundance factor mean to you? To you know, different entrepreneurs, neuroscientists, all of the things. But Alexi was one of those people, and that's how I came across Alexi, and then Preston through Alexi when they came to Australia with the bridge experience. And this is where I met this beautiful man, Sam. So Sam, bringing it all the way back to where manifestation is your wizardry. Can you yeah, allow the listener in into where you began your manifestation, yeah, how it all started for you and what you manifested into existence? I've literally just got goosebumps as I said that, because this man's got an incredible story. So Sam.
Yeah, where do you want to start? I mean, it's yeah, it's manifestation is life. That's the first thing. Like, a lot of people think manifestation or manifesting is something that you do or something that you learn. It's life. We live in the manifest reality. I said before, my parents have strong theosophical beliefs. Okay, so that's theosophical. You know, coming as a play on the Theosophical Society. You know, works of Helena Levinsky, you know, Charles W. Lederbetter, and Annie Besant, stuff like this. Like, these are spiritual works that were written in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and
No. Oh shit. Hey there, Sam.
With Magistris, which is the Greek part of it, and then they also say Thoth, which is the Egyptian part of it. So very interesting. I could go on for hours on this, but bottom line is the overlying principle and their overlying law is all is mind. Okay, so everything that is perceived, created, and stuff like it's created from the mind. Okay, and that's the basis. That is the basis of most modern day spirituality. Except for the fact that people get a little bit misdrewed with it, and they don't. People pick and choose what they like in the new age. Okay, they like that, and they'll take that on as a concept, but they don't have a look, because there's a whole lot of stuff that you've got to accept that you're not going to like. So anyway, so manifestation, all is mind. So manifestation is everything. We are always manifesting, and we manifest. It's very clear to me, and this has come to me a lot of times. We manifest on, and we use our mind to manifest in the realms of consistency, strength, and clarity. So it's what you think about, okay, consistently, strongly, and clearly, okay. And how that works is what you think then becomes, from there generally becomes an emotion, okay. So you think something, it becomes an emotion, and then from an emotion, it becomes a vibration attached to that emotion. Now, this is not fucking, sort of woohoo sort of stuff. This is science these days, okay? This is a subsector of science, and people explain this through science these days. But bottom line is your thoughts will create an emotion, and the emotion creates the vibration, and then the vibration is what speaks to the universe, and this is how you manifest. So there's lots of different ways, and this is how we manifest our reality. Is we are walking around, we're thinking, we're seeing things, and we're being a certain way, and because we're being a certain way, this creates a certain vibration, and that vibration will attract certain things in our life. Now that's the very, very basis of it. Okay, that is the very, very basis of it. So everybody's doing it. Everybody's going out, like all the amazing things, your wife, your kids, everything, you manifest them into your life. Okay. From the truth of the matter, they don't actually really exist. They're just part of your mind. Okay. That's how consciousness works. Consciousness is collective, and you've just got a single mind that sees things in a certain way. And then they've got a single mind that sees things in a certain way. It's very, very interesting. Okay. So this is how the manifest reality works. Then if you want to be good at manifestation, you start to play with that. But this is another thing. And it's like, I don't think I talk about this at workshops, but manifestation is there, okay, to cause suffering. And this is how it works. So we manifest, right? We come to this earth, if you want souls or whatever, we come to this earth to be manifest beings. So we manifest things, we bring things into our life. So what happens is you manifest something, whether it be material or emotional or whatever, then we generally get attached to it. Okay, it's as simple as that. Okay, on the most basic level, you manifest your children into your life. Okay, and then you get attached to it, or your wife, and then you get attached to them. It may be a watch, it may be a car, maybe a house, whatever, but you get attached to them. And then once you get attached to them, there becomes a fear of loss or a potential suffering as well. What if I lose that? What if I do that? And then this is where the fear kicks in. But the crux of that is, when you say that and you listen to that as a human, that sounds very morbid and horrible, but it's not, because the whole idea of it is we come in here when we manifest, and then we get attached to things, and then we worry about losing, and then we suffer. Okay, because there may be a time, in your family where one of you pass, and this is suffering. I've experienced this. This is suffering, but that suffering leads to growth. And this is actually what's happening with the collective now. I don't want to go too much into the whole fucking COVID thing and what's going on there, but this is what's happening with the collective now. The collective is going through a mass suffering. Okay, and the mass suffering is followed by a mass awakening. The mass awakening cannot happen without the suffering, and I don't think we've even touched the suffering. I think it's going to go a lot further. So this is the constructs of reality. Is we become a human, we manifest, we go out there, we create things, we get things, and then those things become attachments, things that we want to keep them. We start to, this is my cup, this is my pen, this sort of thing. So we come attached to it. Then if we lose it, like, I'll be honest with you, if I've got a nice Mont Blanc pen here, like I get the shits. If my pen goes missing, I yell at my wife. I yell at her, where the fuck is my pen? You know what I mean? It's like, why the fuck am I yelling at a person I love for a pen? And it's not like it's just like, where the fuck is my pen? Have you stolen my pen? Have you taken it? Have you misplaced it? You know what I mean? It creates an argument.
The only two people that live in the house.
a pen. You know what I mean? You understand this if you're married, yeah?
Yeah. Babe, can I use your microphone today? I'm like, you've got your own. But yes, of course.
So anyway, we do this thing through manifestation, all right? And there's this attachment and suffering and this growth that comes about it. But manifesting becomes a very beautiful thing, and it's very interesting. It's like it's quite funny. Like as of recent, I've manifested something. Like I'll tell my story. Basically, I was running a business successfully throughout Australia and New Zealand. We were pretty good. 2019, we did nearly 5 million turnover, which means I'll be straight with you. It's not to fucking float my boat or anything. I made just shy of $1 million, right? Just shy of $1 million Australian in 2019, or the financial year 2018, 2019. 2020, COVID hit. Fucking boom, bushka, gone, everything. So my business went from doing nearly 5 million a year turnover down to under 500,000. I had tax debt come in like crazy. I had to shut down my business. So I went from having this amazing business, to be honest with you, that I thought would retire me by 40. And that was my goal. That was what I was trying to manifest. I'm trying to retire at 40. 3 years before that, I moved to Vanuatu. So I'm living in Vanuatu. I live in an island nation in the Pacific for people who are living, if you've got a lot of people in Ireland or in Europe, Vanuatu is around about a 3-hour flight from Australia, from Brisbane. So I live there. So with COVID, there was lockdowns. There's no way I can even get back to my business to fix it. Majority of my business was actually in New Zealand, and I'm an Australian. I don't have a New Zealand passport. So I couldn't even they wouldn't even let me into New Zealand to go fix my business. Anyway, so business went balls up and stuff like that. And that went. So I've, over the last 2 years, I've sort of been living on saved money, but we own properties all around Vanuatu. I've got massive mortgages. There's nobody staying in my properties because a lot of them are holiday homes and stuff like that. So there's issues that have come around about finance. So manifestation's a funny thing. So it doesn't give you what you want. Put it that way. Like this is the thing. There's certain ways to manifest. Okay. Now you can manifest clear and precise, and you can try to get what you want. Okay. And sometimes that can work. Okay. Well, it does work, but what comes with that is huge amounts of suffering, and it's not always the best. What I've been working with is using the thought process and manifesting what it is and how I want to be, but then surrender. And I mean complete and utter surrender to what will become of it. Okay. Now, this is mad. Like we spent some time on New Year's. Like I didn't go at New Year's Eve. We don't really drink anyway. But we spent some time on New Year's Eve, me and my partner, Catherine, and we did a big ceremony about what it is that we'd like to bring into our life. Big part of that was children. We want to bring children into our life. Big part of that was children, but it was also, some financial abundance. And to be honest, not to lose what I worked hard for, because I went from being, having good money into having fucking nothing. So it was to bring that in. And for you, I've dabbled in this coaching space, and, you've been at workshops and, seminars that I've helped support and run, and I've run certain coaching courses and stuff like that. And I've been trying to get into this industry for a while, but something's been stuck with it. And, anyway, so I put it out there. Let's create something. I need to make some income. I need to do this. And literally within 2 days, I had a job offer. So somebody called me that I know in Vanuatu, said, hey, do you want to get involved in real estate over here? I don't know. I kind of don't like the way she does business and stuff like that. Anyway, so I went and had a chat to her. I'm like, I'm not going to say no, because I try to manifest something, and this has just fucking popped in my very, very quickly, right? So anyway, so I had a look at her and stuff like that. For whatever reasons, I decided not to go with her. So I went to the, what I believe to be the top. It's a real nice real estate company here. They sell most of the high-end properties. And I went and talked to them about it. I said, hey, I've been offered this job. I want to get into real estate, and it's in my face. To be honest, I'd never wanted to get into real estate, but all of a sudden it came out. I said, hey, it's in my face. What do we do with this?
Why is it down up? Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And they said, all right, cool. And then they've offered me a job, given me an office, all this sort of stuff. I mean, it's not, I work my own hours, and I can still do my consultancy stuff from there. So I'm a real estate consultant, if you like. But I know sales. I've done sales my whole life. I can do sales. And when the borders open, it's probably worth about $500,000 a year to me. It's a very, very decent, nice job. And it's funny. Like and there's a lot of me, I'll be honest with you, this is real time talk. I've spent the last 3 days talking myself out of doing this job, because I spent the last 3 days going, no, fuck that. Like, why would I do that? Like 2019, I'll be honest with you, we had nearly 100 people working for me 2019. Like, I wasn't the sales guy. I was the guy at the front of the room running the company. And I think, fuck, now I have to go back and show people houses and do sales and do this sort of stuff. Why would I want to do this? Why would I want to go out there and do that? But I just kept on going.
The ego.
Yeah, big loads of the ego. But it's been put in front of me, and it's not, and I can trust it's not what I want. Okay, it's not what I want, but I know it's what's best for me at this time.
A bridge.
It's very interesting, and it's this is the manifestation game. And once you get used to it, and it's about looking for those signs, because that got put in my face, and it got put in my face pretty hard. And I'm excited about it, but then the ego is going, oh, but you've been there, done that, and what are you doing at this stage of your life? And mind you, I'm still fucking in my 30s. So it's like, it's not too late to start a career. So it's a very interesting process. Would you have questions? That was a little bit different to how I used to talk about manifestation. But yeah, if you've got questions around manifestation, I'd love to answer them.
I do right now, because what you've brought up is a beautiful journey, and thank you for all of that. Because the name of this podcast is The Waves of Change, and you've just literally the intention is to allow the listener into the minds of others, and how they are with changes in their life, because some people fight against it and end up in a worse situation, and other people embrace it and go with the flow of life. And why exactly you don't want to be, I won't speak on your behalf, but you probably prefer something else, and it's a sticking point, as you admitted yourself. It's not your first choice, but you're going to roll with it because it's shown up in your space, to make it more flowy in your life. So just in regards to people that may be listening, that may be going through whatever the changes are in their life, and how would you, what would be your advice to them in regards to a similar situation in their life?
Well, the ego is a funny thing, and I'm like continuously. I'm a meditator. I meditate, for an hour or two every single day. So, and the meditation I do is self-inquiry. So, people talk about shadow work these days and stuff like that. There's no shadow work like asking the question, "Who am I?" and meditating on it for an hour or two a day. That goes there. You're not beating around the bushes. So I'm continually calling out my ego, and seeing this and going down this sort of spiritual coach, or going down this path. And I've run various courses around meditation and men's work and personal development and stuff like that. Going down that path, there's this ideal to how that looks as a success. You mentioned something like Preston Smiles before, and who's making great money, and I know him very well. And living a great life. So, someone like myself looks at that and goes, is that fantastic? Is that the ideal of success? And is that what I need to do? And my ego get attached to that. And then in the background, this is a funny one because I nearly wrote a post on this. And then in the background, I'm telling myself, I love this. I love this job because I'm in service. I'm serving people. Okay. But when I really ask myself, and this is fucking real talk. Okay. And I hope some coaches listen to this. When I ask myself the question, okay, am I really in service? Yes, I am. And I love the idea of it, but let's be fucking honest. I want to make money and I want to have some sort of notoriety or fame. Yeah. Because that's what I see my mentors like Preston, like whoever your mentor is, whoever these people are out there, Anthony Robbins, whoever these men, Jack Hanford, whoever these mentors are out there, or, in the spiritual arena and stuff like that. Even as like, I watch a lot of Muji stuff and stuff like that. I look at Muji and it's, blah, blah. But why would I want to be like Muji? So I can sit there with all the people at my feet on the chair. There's a fucking huge ego around it. Bang. There is. And I may just be speaking to myself, but I don't think I am. From my experience, from what I see out there, I may just be speaking to myself. But if I am just speaking to myself, I've been able to call myself out on that and say, hey, that's actually what I want from it. I want the money and I get the energy transfer and stuff like that. Yeah, I want that. Okay. But there's also the notoriety and the fame, which is a nasty ego. It's a nasty, nasty ego to get rid of. And then I had a look at this, and it's like, you know, like doing real estate. And I've even started calling it a job. You know, I got a job. I didn't get a fucking job. Like, I'm self-employed and I work my own hours and all that sort of stuff. So it's not, it's still entrepreneurial, but I've started calling it a job. And there's this connotation around doing a 9 to 5 or whatever. And even though I don't have to do a 9 to 5, there's connotation around it. But bottom line, what I'm going to be doing in Vanuatu is I'm going to be, you know, when the borders open up, rich people are going to be coming over here. I talk to them on the phone. They're going to be flying in. I potentially pick them up from an airport in a nice car. Okay. I wine and dine them, and then I go show them some multi-million-dollar properties for the day. Okay. In the sun.
Not bad.
That's not a fucking bad job.
No,
and if you can make a quid doing it, it's
I would
not
do
a bad
that
job.
myself while doing this as well. No problem. No fucking
you know what I
problem.
mean?
Yeah.
But this is the thing. There's a persona or a let's call it a spiritual ego attached to it that says, oh no, I don't want to do that. And I notice this is coming up for myself. And a lot of it's funny, like I'm not going to mention any names, but some people I've reached out to and I've said, you know, I've got a job and stuff like that. What are you doing in real estate? And they've sort of like, real estate. It's like, just drop your fucking spiritual bullshit. You know what I mean? It's like, shut up. You know what I mean? Because if it makes me happy and I smile, do you know what I mean? If it makes you happy, and you
they're
smile,
poking your ego. Trust me.
Yeah.
It's
huge.
They're fucking with you on purpose, I reckon. Anyway, whoever it is.
Oh, it's been a few. It's been a few, but it's interesting. Oh, why would you do that? Like, isn't that, you know, blah, 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 you know, aren't you a meditation teacher? I'm like, yeah, and can I not meditate and fucking sell some houses? Like, where's the rule on that? You know what I mean?
Exactly. Exactly. And again, it's like, which brings me all the way back again to, you know, how sometimes those closest to us, they, you know, although they mean well, but their opinions and you know, how their opinions limit us because they've, according to their belief of how we should be in the world, we should fit into that box. Can you speak more into that?
Yeah.
And just to go one further and go a little bit more deeper and poke a few holes, poke the beast as such, because those closest to most of the majority of the world, the people who are actually closest to us, so our family and friends, are the biggest killers of dreams on the planet. Although they mean well in most cases, their perception of what we should be doing in our reality is a direct reflection of the fears in theirs. So they don't believe that you can't. So when they project that that you shouldn't do something for the reason X, Y, and Z, it's more of a fear that is innately in them of why they can't create the life that you're aiming to create. So can you speak a bit more into that, Sam?
Yeah, and then look at jealousy probably comes up too as well. It's a funny thing. I mean, you're not jealous of you know, Elon Musk, are you? You know, well done or whatever, you know. But you know, if the mate that you grew up with was doing that, you know, and was worth billions of dollars, you was like, fuck, like, where did I go wrong? You know what I mean? What happened?
Yeah,
so it's
competition phase on, yeah.
But it happens, yeah. And look, I've been lucky enough that my, I suppose my support structure with family anyway hasn't been that way. So I don't notice that. They're always 100% behind me on whatever I do. But yeah, I definitely notice that in peer groups and stuff like that as well. And there are certain, you know, and I'll say it again, certain people that call themselves conscious and stuff like that is interesting. Like I actually wrote a post a while ago. I think you commented on it as well, but it was just about kind of like the downfall of my business over the last 2 years and the emotions around it and so forth and so on. And I had lots of people reach out and leave their comments and say their things and stuff like that, and that was nice. But then some people I noticed who usually do comment didn't really say anything and stuff like that. And it was the people I expected to have that kind of I got you back response didn't. Okay. And that's not a bad thing. You know, like they could have been busy doing their own lives, whatever, you know, and it's fucking social media. I'm not getting too caught up on it. But the one person who really reached out to me was very interesting. He's actually a mentor of mine. I'm not going to mention his name, but he's a best-selling author, and he wrote a book around. It's a business book. It's a business book around love. And I went to spend some time with him in, I'll give him a plug, okay, he won't mind that. Steve Farber, okay? Steve Farber, he wrote a book called The Radical Leap. He's written a number of books. He just, latest one's Love is Good Business.
I just got chills, by the way. I just thought I'd tell you that.
He's great. He's great, but he talks about, you know, the role of love in business. But he's a business guy. He's a business guy. But he reached out to me and sent me a voice message, and I've got to jump on a call with him. And he's like, and he's a mentor. He's a best-selling author, and he's a busy guy. And he said, "Hey, mate, let's jump on a call, and I'll give you an hour of my time, and let's have a chat about this." You know what I mean? Because you know, you can see one entrepreneur to another entrepreneur going through some shit. And he kind of reached out. He's not, you know, conscious community or, you know, in men's work or anything like that.
Yeah.
He's some business guy that, you know, he enjoys playing a guitar on the weekend, and he's a funny guy. But, you know, and just to have that, it was a really nice thing, really, really nice thing. So, but yeah, some people I don't fully support you. You know, it hasn't been. I'll be honest with you, Darragh. It's not something that I've experienced a whole lot in my life, so it's not something I can really talk into it. There's no sort of pain or wounding around that for me. I think, you know, if people have been that way in my life, I'm just like, fuck you, and I'll keep moving. So it's not something that I'm like, I've got any sort of pain or, you know, there's no emotion attached around that. So I don't know if I can give you a fantastic answer on that one. That's the first thing I thought of, though, if that makes sense. So,
yeah, that's cool. I really enjoyed that, the vulnerability in that post. I told you yesterday, so Facebook, I sort of stopped using it for a lot of last year, and I was just on Instagram, and whatever day, I don't know what day is at the minute, but the other day I went on Facebook because I seen one of your posts, and then I end up reading about 10 of them. So, and now they're showing up on Instagram. So, like, fuck's sake, where have they been? Or your stories? But there was a window where you weren't as active. Is that right, on social media? And maybe I spend more time on Instagram, but that post around, you know, the $5 million business and the jet setting around the world and the life, and yeah, it was a really courageous and vulnerable post, and I enjoyed it, not from you know, the downfall, but I enjoyed it from the truth aspect of that.
Yeah. Appreciate that.
Yeah, the truth and the heart as well. Speaking from the heart, you know, we definitely know when it's heart speaking and otherwise. In certain posts and media and advertisements and stuff like that. But what would you say to you know, the people that are coming out of school and in general in life that are, you know, being forced into a herd mentality, or to follow the herd? What would your advice be around that?
Don't do it. It's you know, it's hard because when you're young, it's like, you know, you're impressionable and you do want to follow the herd. You want to fit in. This is the whole way society's sort of put around. And I remember being back, like, I didn't, you know, I left school beginning of year 11 and didn't get my HSC or the school qualifications and stuff like that. So
just before you go on, can you because even for me, year 11, what age group was that?
16.
16, right, perfect.
Yeah. So, you know, I didn't finish school. I wasn't going to go to university. I didn't finish school. So, and then going into the workforce, there was this real, I don't know, worthlessness about me. I lost confidence. I did loads of confidence. And even though I had supportive parents that told me I could do and be whatever I wanted to be, there was, you know, society, there was a big drain on it, you know, society telling me I couldn't. So, you know, I thought about going back to school, and thank God I didn't, because that would have been a waste of time. And, you know, I jumped through physical labor jobs and then luckily got involved in actually sales, and it was commission-based sales. And, you know, I worked hard and I was cheeky and I was a smart ass and I did lots of sales and I made lots of money. And that sort of started me off on my entrepreneurial journey. So there is, you know, saying to anybody coming out of school, just have a look. There are other options out there, and I'm probably not going to. I'll be honest with you. If anybody's listened to, I'm probably not going to speak to your, you know, your kid that's got fantastic marks and that's off to university to get a degree and become a, you know, become whatever, an architect. Or I'm probably not going to speak to them because that's not my story. And there is a place in the world for that. But for the kid that's had a little bit of trouble, that maybe, you know, left school early or doesn't know what he's going to do with himself, or weighing up not going to university, go out there, get life experience, try things, do things that put you in uncomfortable situations. This is the biggest thing. Like I've noticed, you know, up until, you know, I talked about this up until 2 years ago, I run a, you know, rather large business, or medium to large business, but employed a lot of young people. And over the years, I've noticed, you know, it sounds like I'm getting old here, but people are getting pissed weak, you know, and they avoid discomfort. They avoid discomfort like crazy, absolutely crazy. And I run a sales company, so a lot of it's heavy commission-based work and stuff like that. So they avoid that. I know damn well that, you know, if they go out there and do commission-based sales for a year, they're going to come out with a lot more experience and a lot more, you know, thick skin and a lot more life experience, know a lot more about themselves than if they go work in a cafe for a year. I know that 100%, but a lot of kids aren't seeing it that way. A lot of kids aren't, you know, making the tough decisions in life and understanding that, you know, the things that are hard is, you know, what helps you grow. You know, we get this from a basic principle because they all go to the fucking gym and lift weights, and we understand, you know, you lift weights, it's, you know, the more you lift weights, the more pain that you're in, the more results you're going to get. Well, this is how it is through life. And if you want to go in life and play that game and make money and, you know, potentially be an entrepreneur, or even get yourself in a position where you've got some sort of freedom in your life, well, you know, yeah, some of it's going to be uncomfortable. Okay. Or you can go put your head on the pillow and fucking submit to what society tells you to do. Go to university, do the comfy thing, get some bullshit degree and come out and get a job. And then pay your way off. You pay your way until what, 68 in Australia? So you go through, you retire at 68, and then you shit in a fucking bag and you've got a caravan and then you die.
Yeah.
That's life.
And if your superannuation / retirement is still there with the way the governments are running the world at the minute. They're getting milked. But two things come up for me as you were speaking, Sam, and I'll just stick with the topic you're on right now. The first one is, why do you believe that this softness has come about in the younger generation?
I don't know. It's hard for me to pinpoint that, but you know, it's obviously generation over time, and you know, each generation's got softer and softer. And I can say some things, but it's probably not for a podcast right now.
I understand what you're talking about.
It may piss off some of your audience, but it's, you know, this ape play trophy thing, you know, where kids get rewarded for anything. I don't think it's good things. I don't think it's good things, and I don't, you know. I'm going to say I don't think this, you know, the kids choosing their own sexuality is a good thing. Sexuality is hard. It is hard. It's hard to figure it out as a kid, as a young boy. You think back to when you were a young boy, the fucking scariest thing on the earth was a fucking girl. That was the scariest thing on the earth at one stage in your life. You know what I mean?
For you.
And to be able to navigate that, it's hard. But yeah, so it's interesting. It's interesting, but I just think, you know, over time, you know, I feel people have just got soft and they've started to avoid the difficult situations in life. Everything, the whole society's made everything easier. You know, like if you get off this call right now and you don't want to cook breakfast, you can Uber Eats it. You know what I mean? You can get Uber Eats. You can everything's a fast food society. And it's like, I mean, some of the work I'm up to in Vanuatu. In Vanuatu, we live on we've got 12 hectares. You know, we're self-sufficient. We've got our own power, our own water, and we're trying to be self-sufficient with food. We've got 12 hectares, so we've got a farm here and stuff like that. But people don't understand, like to put dinner on your plate and to have 5 or 6 ingredients on your plate, like most dinners would have, you know what I mean? Like 5 or 6, not including sort of spices and salts and stuff like that. But put 5 or 6 vegetables on your plate with something. There's a lot of work involved in that. Like, and we're trying to do that with the gardens and the farm, and we can't do it ourselves. We've got help that does it with us, you know. We've got 2 families that live with us here. But that's lost, you know, that's lost. And if you think back, it's like, you know, if you think back, you know, maybe your parents, probably your grandparents had those skills, you know what I mean? And they knew how to do these things. Like my mum's side of the family's from Europe, and they're Ukrainian, and they sort of lived in rural Ukraine. So to be able to do that sort of stuff, it was, you know, it was common knowledge for my grandma and my babushka to do. Yeah. But 2 generations down the road, like, you tell a kid to grow a carrot, they wouldn't know what to do. You know, they fucking do it on Fortnite or something. You know, it's a problem.
To be fully transparent and honest, we road tripped. I sat with plant medicine for the first time ever in November, and we road trip up to Mullumbimby, and we have been planning to move there for the last 12 months. We are going to move there. We've been strategic with it. Anyways, a couple of the families because that's what we're aiming towards, land, growing, being self-sustainable, growing our own food, trapping our own water, and the power from the solar panels. But yeah, I stayed with friends of ours, and they've got a syntropic farm in their garden, and I didn't know how to grow food. This is my introduction. So I'm one of those. I grew up in the city. I lived in the city in every part of the world that I lived in. But to witness what I believed was maybe 10 to 15 vegetables grown in the garden, what turned out to be nearly 100 in a 1 acre block. It blew my fucking mind. It blew me away how efficient the whole system is, and how it lives off itself, how it feeds itself, and then the abundance of. I mean, once you have food and water, and probably power, you're covered. And how far I am away from that life. The interest is there, but the intelligence of how to create it, I started to see. Can you highlight the importance of that type of life moving forward?
Yeah, look, for me, it's majorly important. It was one that, like, moving to Vanuatu was one of the biggest things. You should come here; it's cheaper, and I know a guy that can sell you a house too. So
yeah, it's what about the community? Actually, while we're on the topic, what is the community like there? Because part of why we're moving to Mullumbimby is the community, like-minded people who are creating off the grid lifestyle, and also a lot of, because of the mandates, won't go down that hole too much, but because of the mandates, a lot of the school teachers have come out of the Steiner schools and are creating their own systems, and basically the community running itself and looking after itself, and everybody's equal. What is the community like there in Vanuatu?
Yeah, look, it's good. You don't have there's not a whole, you know, conscious crowd community, but there's a lot of farmers and a lot of people, you know, living off the grid. You know what I mean? But it's not like Mullumbimby. No, it's not like Mullumbimby at all. But to be honest, I spend most of the time with the locals, and they're one of the most present and, you know, peaceful people that you'll meet. So I spend a lot of the time with them, and I'd say, you know, they're my friends. Like our gardener, I just went up to he's home.
Yeah, I've seen that.
That was amazing. I got adopted. They gave me some land up there, and, you know, now I'm part of the family, and I'm a brother or son to his dad. But the village I got adopted into, it's a small. They got a lot of land, but there's only 40 people that live in the village, and it's my gardener's dad. He had 6 kids, their husbands and wives, and their grandkids, and then their kids. And there's 40, so there's 40 people that live in this village. And they've got all the food that they need, the water and stuff like that. There's turtles like that come up on the beach every single day. Like it's fucking paradise. But I'd say one of the most connected conversations I've had was with his brother, and it was just sitting there, and and there was nothing to distract me, sitting there on the beach, nowhere to be, nothing to do, no concept of time or anything like that. And it was, this is, out of all the conscious new age people I know, I'd say, that was probably one of the most connected conversations I've ever had, for that matter. But, getting back to your original question, we moved to Vanuatu for, to try to be self-sufficient. And it's hard. Like, yeah, fuck, I grew up in Sydney and now, and in Auckland before we moved here. And I don't know how to grow a vegetable, but I'm trying. You know what I mean? And we're going out and doing it. But what it means to me is it means peace of mind. And outside the mandates and whatever the government can force us and all that sort of stuff. And this is part, I'll be honest with you, this is part of the reason I went up north and got land, because if I have to go up north, I'll go up north. And I'll go live there. You got to understand, you go up to these islands and they're accessible by boat. There's no cars up there. There's no nothing. They're accessible by boat. And sometimes they run out of fuel up there. Like the fuel tanker doesn't drop off fuel. So you're rowing. So anyway, so it's remote. It's probably one of the most remote places in the world. But to be able to have my own water, like I know we've got our own water. We've got a bore and a well, which is fresh spring water, but we try to use rainwater when we can. So we've got that. We've got a solar system, and these things cost money. Like, we spend 30K on the solar system, and and that does everything. I can sit in the aircon and I can do all the things. Like it's a good solar system, so that suffices. And the next stage is have water, but to know that I'm not reliant on anything else. And if now, like, we would not live nice, but we could live. Like right now, I could shut the gates and we could sit in here for a year. Yeah, no problem. We've got enough food to be able to do that. And we wouldn't have the variety and all this sort of stuff, but we'd eat what the locals eat. They don't eat huge variety. They eat, some root vegetable with maybe another one or two, if you're lucky, vegetables with some coconut milk. So to have that for me is freedom. That for me is peace of mind. And I think it's important, but I don't think society is going to give up their luxuries. And my luxuries are less living in Vanuatu. Like, we don't have Uber Eats here. Like, we don't even have delivery. We live down a dirt road, so we don't even have delivery here. Some places you go into the main part, you can get a pizza delivered and stuff, but here we don't have delivery and stuff like that. So, I've got used to these luxuries being gone, but to really get back to the basics, and I've thought about getting completely back to the basics. And I'm somebody that's probably more ready for it than a lot of people, just for the fact that I lived here and I've conditioned myself to it. I wouldn't be able to do this phone call with you, and there's certain things, there's certain things in my life. I wouldn't have my Tom Ford Sunnies, my bloody, Mont Blanc pen and all this sort of stuff. So there's things that go into it that, but I think living off the land, I think it's important because you can control your freedom. And I think the way especially Australia is going to go is, I think the next big control that you're going to come up against in Australia over the next 6 to 12 months is going to be food. I really think that's the next place that they're going. It's all looking that way. You're going to come up this month with issues with supply chains. I don't know if you know much about this, but Australia's out of the additive that they put in diesel and all that sort of stuff. So, to have food, I think, is important.
Yeah, of course.
That's one of the reasons I moved to Vanuatu. It rains a lot here and it's tropical. So if it rains a lot and it's tropical, shit grows everywhere. Like I can walk outside right now and pick a pawpaw from the tree. I could pick probably 20 pawpaws from the trees just within sight.
Yeah, that's
cool. Abundant, which makes you feel good.
Yeah, that's cool. Two things. Yeah, I'm 100% on the supply chain issue, and I'm also aware of how it's been orchestrated and intentionally by design. Because I also noticed, one, I read about all the cargo ships being docked all around the world, not being allowed to land because of the magic yoke. But I also got a new pair of sunglasses that came from Hong Kong. I bought them on, let's say, Wednesday. They were in Sydney on Thursday, and they wouldn't give them to me for 15 days. So they were in the depot of the place that
quarantine.
yes. I'm like, what? So I could see them on the screen. I rang them up, was like, what the fuck is going on? They didn't say too much. So just say, oh yeah, they're on the way, blah, blah, blah. But I was like, straight away, it's like, it's a different awareness. You're saying they're directly fucking destroying the economy, or purposely destroying the economy. By doing that, because if you have foods or whatever the case is, like I don't know how long these things are supposed to last in these containers. So yeah, but also what I want to highlight is this whole first world, third world thing. Um, with the way they're controlling the energy sources and claiming that we're running out of this X, Y, and Z. And what I see is that being flipped on its head. What people are deemed as third world are immediately going to go to straight to first world because they can provide for themselves and their family, no matter what. Like as you said, you're all bases covered no matter what. So yeah, with that as well, another question came up from me, Sam, and it's more around the importance of following your heart and following your heart and yeah, following your heart and not doing things. One, because of fear of judgment. Two, because other people tell you that's the way it should be done, or that's the way you should live, or because that's the way it's always been done. Yeah, can you highlight it?
I think you got to know your heart first. That's the problem with society, and it's like we're kind of going down this path, which is fucking a little bit conspiracy or whatever. It's a little bit 2020, but I believe society is set up for us not to feel our hearts, and it's for us to be in our heads all the time and consume. That's what we are. We're consumers. We're a fucking virus. We just consume shit. Bought me Sunny. I'm the worst. I'm terrible. You know what I mean? It's like the painting behind me. It looks all cool and spiritual and blah blah blah, and it's from Tibet. But the amount of money I paid for that fucking thing to come from Tibet, so I could have something that looks, it's so not spiritual. It's not funny. I can have a spiritual painting that cost me fucking a fortune. It's just like it's a contradiction, but it's because we're so in our head all the time, and we're just consuming and getting things, and we just want things to come into our life, and we don't give back enough, and the giving back is where I believe the heart opens, and it's this we should naturally, I believe in balances and big balances, and even in business should balance, because where there is profit, like this is just how it is. Where there is profit, guess what? There is loss, and it may not be next door. It may not be next door, but there is loss somewhere in the world because you're profiting. And in the Western world, we all profit. If we're in the Western world where we all profit. It's as simple as that. So there is loss somewhere. You know what I mean? And I think that we're too much about this. And in the Western world, there's too much consuming, too much taking, and not enough giving back. So it's sort of this one-way flow. When we start to give back and we open up, this is what you'll notice, like in Vanuatu. Vanuatu, the average wage here is $2 a day, right? So $2 US a day. They live on $2 US a day. It's been voted the happiest nation in the world, like 10 years running by Lonely Traveler. So some of the happiest people in the world. Crime's very small, if any. There's a little bit of domestic violence and stuff, but it's kind of what happens in these island nations. But it's not even that bad here because alcohol is not a big thing here. They drink a lot of kava, which is sort of like it's a bit like smoking pot, I suppose. So they're a little bit too stoned to do anything. But they're happy. They give back. There's a nation of open-hearted people, and it's hard to understand here because, like sometimes, I will give my old stuff. Like it's like we throw out, rather like here you don't have a Vinnie's bin you can go put it in. So you get old stuff. I give it to our gardeners and stuff like that, and they'll wear it. And then all of a sudden I see their friend wearing it, and I'm like, did you give away the shit I gave you? But it's just like at the start, I was a little bit like, fuck, I gave that to you. Like, you should keep that. Like, but it's their cultures to give and to share.
Yeah.
you know, and they're always giving and sharing it in that way. You know what I mean? It's like we've got two families here, and I bought, you know, one of the boys' bikes. So they ride around on their bikes and stuff like that, but they're shared around everybody in the fucking neighborhood, and they're everywhere. So it's a very, very interesting thing on how that works. But these people are open-hearted. So, you know, I think your question was about, you know, trusting your heart. Is I think you have to be open-hearted too. You have to understand your heart before you can trust your heart. And once your heart's open and you give and you work on it. I mean, my thing's meditation, but it's, you know, it's different horses for different courses. You gratitude, and you're thankful, and you open your heart up, and you know when your heart's open. And there's levels to that conversation as well. But then you can trust it. Then you can trust it. When your heart's shut down, it just thinks about, you don't know what feels good. Like people say, open your heart and, you know, think with your heart. But if your heart's shut down, you can't think with it's encrusted. You can't think with it. When your heart's open, then you can trust and stuff like this. This goes back to the conversation about real estate. Like I believe with the work, well, fuck, I do enough work. I should be fucking open-hearted. So I know when my heart's open, and sometimes it's not, you know, but I know. And this real estate thing come in, and I couldn't do anything but say yes and pursue it. I couldn't. It was too much of a whack.
Yeah.
It's here for, like, I spent time and did my magic thing, and I won't get into all that, but did my thing on New Year's Eve around the fire and did all my magic stuff and all the things that I know how to do. And this opportunity shows up, and it's not what I fucking wanted at all. You know, not at all what I wanted, but it showed up, and it showed up really, really hard and really, really fast. And it showed up to the point where it wouldn't get out of my head. And I'm like, I tried to discard it. I'm like, no, go away. It's still there. So then I thought about it. Okay. Something in that. So, yeah, trust your heart, open your heart first so you can trust it. Otherwise, you just won't feel it. Otherwise, you'll just be making decisions with your head. And the real estate thing, I think it will play out well. I actually know it will play out well. But if my head was to make a decision, and when I had my ego was to make my spiritual ego, me being an online coach and all, wouldn't allow me to do it. It wouldn't have allowed me to do it. So, and circle back on this in 6 months. It'll be interesting to see if I'm a real estate $1 million mogul or whatever.
Guru, a spiritual real estate guru, selling monasteries and monk castles and all sorts of stuff, ancient artifacts. But what came through as you were speaking, I don't know, it's from a film, but it's you know, there's a guy that's drowning, and he's like, God will save me, you know, about trusting God and the universe and whatever it is for people. But, you know, God will save me. And, you know, this boat came along and he's like, no, God's going to save me. And then another boat came along. He's like, no, I'm good. God is going to save me. So 5 boats, eventually he drowns, goes to heaven. But his first question is, God, why didn't you save me? He's like, are you fucking serious? I sent you 5 boats.
I sent you boats.
Yeah, again for you, and that's back to the waves of change. It's do we embrace? How can we learn to be better at embracing the change, trusting our intuition, and exploring what is showing up in real time? So with that, Sam, we've got 2 more questions and we'll close it out for the day. Just one quick one on trust. 3 questions, but the first one is a double whammy. So it's one on what would be your guidance on for people, the listener, to you know, what tools to use to get into that opening the heart mode, and then also learning to trust their intuition more. So it's a double similar question.
Yeah. I open my heart. I mean, like meditation. I'm a meditation teacher. That's what I do. You know, my dad's a lifelong meditator, or has been for 50 years anyway. You know, I've been meditating a long time as a kid and stuff like that. So meditation is what I know. So going into the heart and opening the heart through meditation. And my suggestion is find a meditation teacher if you are interested in meditation. Find somebody that is traditional and knows what they're doing. A lot of meditation these days is called meditation, but I don't believe it to be, as a meditation purist, I don't believe it to be meditation. You know, these app-based meditations, it's it's mental masturbation. There's no other way to put it. That's just having a wank with your mind. That's really what it is. You know what I mean? Real meditation is beyond the mind. You know, and there is a process to get there, and it does take time, and it's not you know, it's not a cheeseburger at McDonald's. It's not like that. You know, where a lot of the meditations out there is they try to create something, you know, very, very fast. Breathwork's a classic example of it. Is that, you know, they try to get you know, a euphoric feeling very, very fast, which sometimes that's dangerous. So meditation is a slow burn, but it definitely opens up your heart if you're doing it in the right way, and you've got the right intentions or non-intentions around it. So that's you know, that's what I use. But I think on a day-to-day thing, it's giving. Like, I hope you understood that. If I can get that, there should be a natural flow of receiving and giving, or taking, consuming, and then giving. Yeah, it should be in balance. There should be this flow. You should be giving as much as you're consuming. Okay, but we're not like that in the Western world. We take a lot more than we give. Okay, and we know damn well when we give, we feel fantastic for doing it. Okay, scientifically, they actually got, I'm going to try to explain this quickly, but they got people they put all the electrodes in the head and measured serotonin levels anyway. So serotonin levels when somebody bought something. Okay, so somebody would go on and spend $2,000 on a handbag online. They buy something and they test it. The serotonin levels go up and they come down. Your experience, so it may be a holiday. You buy a holiday to Bali or something like that. Okay, boom. Your serotonin levels go up. They stay up for a while, better than the handbag, but then they come back down. Then you go give $2,000 to charity. Your serotonin levels go up and they stay up for a lot longer. So it makes you a lot happier to give. Okay, so I think just opening your heart is about giving back, and it's about supporting and stuff like that, and being in a place of service and true service. And don't fucking go help the homeless guy and post it on Facebook. You know what I mean? It's like true service. Do it from a serviceless place. You know what I mean? And I think that's a very heart-opening experience. And the second part of the question was around intuition. How do you trust your intuition? It just comes with time, and it comes with trusting it. And I think that there also needs to be an intellectual understanding of how the universe works that helps assist that. And just understanding that everything is perfect. Okay. And I don't like the terminology, but God has a plan, if you like. There is a divine plan. Okay, not that divinity can plan, but everything is working out for the right reasons at the right time, even when it feels like shit, even when it's horrible and it's hard. And these lessons may not even be for you this lifetime. You just may have a shit, horrible life this lifetime, but the growth that you have from that as a soul is huge. So trusting that everything is going to work out absolutely perfectly. And then that puts you in a place where you can just say yes. You can say yes to things, and you can surrender to the outcome and let it be.
Let it come true.
Let what happens happen. So there's a lot around it, and that understanding, and I'll sort of tie that in. That understanding is great to have intellectually, and you can get that from reading a book. But when you match that intellectual understanding with what you experience through a spiritual practice, like I'm going to say meditation, through what you experience in the spiritual practice, that understanding in the head will then meet the heart. Okay, and it becomes not knowledge, but it becomes a knowing. And there's a big difference in between knowing and knowledge. And this is so many people out there these days attach the idea of what they know. Okay, the amount of books that they've read and the knowledge that they have. But there's a big difference with knowing. And you know when somebody knows something and somebody's regurgitating some fucking knowledge. There's a big difference in it. So anyway,
that's
hope that
a
answered your question.
Yeah, it did, big time, because what I heard in that was, like, you know, when you ask people who they are, they immediately identify all the titles that they've been gifted from society. When you really peel away that, is that who they really are? So the inner knowing is, thanks for that incredible answer. And also what showed up for me was I just done a clear out of my wardrobe and, you know, a few things around the house, and you know, I used to love all the fancy stuff and all of that, and I just thought I get to, from this moment forward, because usually for me, because I'm all action, it's like get it to the nearest charity shop, which is up the road. I've given them loads over the years, but it's also a charity shop that I guess is owned by a corporation that profits from. So now with what you said, thank you for that, because now I'm going to look and be more intentional with my giving. Um, because like there's Hugo Boss and there's, Kathmandu, hiking equipment and all sorts of stuff there that, why should I give for the profit of somebody else? And instead be more intentional with families that may actually need it here in Sydney. So thanks for sparking that awakening awareness in me. And then just lastly, the last question. What does the waves of change mean to you?
Sorry, what was that? Is just cut out there.
What does the waves of change mean to you?
The weight of change.
Waves, the name of the podcast.
Oh, waves. Sorry. I didn't want to say that, and that's not even your accent. For some reason, I didn't want to say that. Like twice, it glitched when you said that. Very interesting. The waves of change. Like when I hear that, it's like I go to, it's I'm sort of throwing a Rumi quote. That's where, it's you are not the drop, you are the drop in the ocean. I just butchered that quote, but I'm sure you've heard that quote or seen it somewhere. Yeah. Okay. But it talks about basically you are not a drop of water. You are the whole ocean. Okay?
Yeah.
Or the drop of water becomes an ocean. People have written it in different ways, but it basically means, we're an individual and then we do that. So anyway, that comes to mind. But then you talk about, the waves of change, and it's you have a look at it. It's like, and it's another thing. It's like, I believe that, in life we go through this and we are the wave, but we're also the ocean. So we're the ocean, okay. And then every now and again we flare up. We flare up, we become this person, we have this ego, we flare up, we puff our chest out, we become a wave. Some waves are bigger than others, some last longer, some ripple out, some dump us, some are violent, some are nice long rides, all that sort of stuff. So, but we flare up and we become this wave, and then after we become this wave, we're the ocean again. You know what I mean? So I think, I think life is the waves of change and what we go through. And sometimes we're going to flare up and sometimes we're going to be the ocean. That's it.
Oh, I really enjoyed that, man. I felt that. I felt that deep. Sam, thank you very much for your time. It's been incredible. Some more mind bending and eye-opening chats. So yeah, thanks for your time, brother. What is next for you, really quickly? Where can people find you? What offerings do you have? Yeah.
Come by real estate. I usually have a whole pitch for this. Funny, but I was like, no, yeah. Well, next wave. So, look, people can find me on all the socials. It's Sam. I've got an ego. My ego is Entrepreneur.
I love that, by the way. I don't think I've ever shared it with you, but I fucking love the meaning of that. But yeah, go ahead.
It's a good play on it. I'm an entrepreneur that's just trying to go within. So it's an Entrepreneur. So Sam Entrepreneur Lewis, Sam Lewis on Facebook. I think Instagram, it's samlewis.entrepreneur. And then we've also done some YouTube stuff. If you want to see what's going on in Vanuatu, the YouTube stuff, I haven't done a lot of it because it takes time. Like it takes a couple of days to produce a high quality video. But we've got a couple of episodes just about what we're doing farming here and stuff like that, and try to put some comedy into it. So check them out. And what I'm doing as well is anybody want to hit up for some one-on-one, some business consulting or meditation stuff. And I've also got a program called Initiation Back to Self, which I'm looking at launching very, very soon. But I've just got to see what happens with that. Initiation Back to Self is a 4-week exploration back into the self. It's basically non-dualistic concepts, so Advaita concepts and principles, mixed in with a weekly meditation. A weekly meditation that I suggest you do daily. But we meditate live weekly. So if that interests anyone, hit us up on socials. That's the best way to do it. If you can't find me on socials, go to Darragh's page, search his friends and search Sam Lewis. You'll find me.
Yeah. No, I will be linking everything with the episode. But also, if you can send me the link to what you're saying your YouTube channel is.
Yep.
And that would be great. I can add it in. Sam, Sam, thanks for your time, brother. Have a funky Friday. Give my love to Catherine and to you guys. I'm looking forward to see what the next phase of the next chapter of your journey brings.
Perfect. Thanks for having us on the show. It's been fun.
Cheers. Good luck. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. If anything resonated for you, please leave a comment below. If there's anyone who may need to hear, please share. I love yous. Have a lovely day.